This weekend might surprise some of you who have been following me since the beginning of this journey, but then again, probably not, because you've seen by now that as I am coming back around and listening to more of an artist or a band after my first exposure, you recognize that I don't only listen to the ones that I really enjoyed, but also to the ones that perhaps I didn't connect to or maybe even didn't like. This weekend is a bit like that. This is a Nightwish weekend. And for those of you who have been following my journey, you might remember that my first time hearing Nightwish was the sixth song in this entire rock music journey, which was I listened to it exactly 3 years ago. And it was a disappointment because I had been built up with expectations. Many of you had said, he's the Mozart of modern rock music. And well, that puts ideas in my mind. As a classical musician, I have high expectations. And so I was disappointed. And you saw that when I did my first listen to Nightwish. However, I'm coming back around to it. And I am choosing to listen to a piece from 2004, which features Tarja Turunen, which is the vocalist that many of you said after that first lesson, oh, you should have gone back to when she was with the band. Well, now here we are. And we are here for a whole weekend. But before listening to Nightwish's Wish I Had an Angel, I want to tell you about the sponsor of this video, which is Aura, a data protection company. Even if we're careful about where and how we share our personal information, the risk of it ending up in the wrong hands is huge and growing as AI continues to develop. Just recently, it was reported that more than 16 billion login credentials, let that sink in. That's twice the number of the Earth's population. 16 billion login credentials for Google and Apple users was stolen and published online. One of my goals for this year is to tighten up the edges of my own data security practices, so I have started using Aura. Aura monitors your personal data, including your social security number, across billions of data points like the dark web and public court records to alert you about potential identity theft. And, in the unlikely case of something going wrong, provides up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. Plus, they offer a variety of other features to keep you safe online, including real-time alerts for data breaches, a VPN for secure browsing, data broker opt-out to stop companies from selling your personal information, a password manager to help you create and store strong passwords, and more. I feel much better knowing that I have Aura's well-respected system in place, and I feel good about recommending them. I encourage you to make this your year to fortify yourself as much as possible too, and if you don't already have a data protection service in place, I strongly encourage you to follow this link and make use of Aura's 2-week free trial. Now, let's listen to Wish I Had an Angel.
I wish I had an angel for one moment of love. I wish I had your angel tonight.
So, the contrast between the voice, between her voice, which is very clean and precise and gentle, and then this comes in with, I wish. I felt like, whew, okay, Big surprise. Let's hear that again, because it's a really great contrast moment. Real surprise.
I wish I had an angel for one moment of love. I wish I had your angel, your Virgin Mary undone. I'm in love with my lust, burning angel wings to dust. I wish I had your angel tonight. I'm going down so frail and crude. Drunken disguise changes all the rules. Old loves they die hard. Old lies they die hard. I wish I had.
So I'm listening to the melodic content of this, and it's interesting because there are moments where I feel like it's somehow tending towards, or perhaps even coming from, a sort of Celtic folk tradition. But it's just a fleeting moment where I think, maybe not, but then it comes back again. It's this sort of hard to grasp. Let's see if I can find one of these examples for you.
Burning angel wings to dust. I wish I had your angel tonight.
Oh, by the way, this chorus where they're both singing together. It's interesting because they have such different voices, but they are so tight together. Their articulation and their singing of each line is so precisely together that it actually works pretty well.
I'm going down so frail and crude. Drunken disguise changes all.
Interesting rhythmical alignment.
Loves they die hard.
Something about this line here. Somehow, that little old loves they die hard, old lies they die harder. Oh, isn't that a great line? Old lies they die harder. I kind of like that, just as an idea. Old loves they die hard, old lies they die harder. But this that she's singing here, something about it just makes me think of, I don't know, let's say The Water is Wide or Danny Boy or something like that. And it's not anything specific. It's more of just a particular feel, a particular flow. And these things, sometimes I'm a little bit reluctant to say it because I don't want to give the impression that there is a formula that makes it X or Y or Z, or that you can always say because it sounds like this, it's this. I'm not saying it that way. I'm just trying to tell you what sort of ideas and connections this brings as I'm hearing it. And so it's not a hard and fast rule. And it's not saying that it has to be this, but it's just how it strikes me as I'm listening to it.
I wish I had an angel for one moment of love. I wish I had your angel, your Virgin Mary undone. I'm in love with my lust, burning angel wings to dust. I wish I had your angel.
really nice. And there's drums there. Okay, now this sort of... Is that organ? You're going to laugh, I'm sure. You might be deeply disappointed, possibly. But I have to say it because it's the truth. As I'm listening to this piece, I know it's Taria and you wanted me to hear her voice. I know. I have to say that the voice that I find most interesting in this song is not Taria's voice. It's this other fellow, whoever he is. And his crazy roaring metal rock voice. There's something interesting to me about his voice and the way he is singing his line. Sorry to be disappointing to those of you who really wanted me to say, "Oh, Taria." Well, she's fine. She's fine. But let's keep going. I especially like when they sing together, though. Yeah, when they have their... Now, I'm not sure if that other line, that harmonizing line, was another soprano voice, perhaps voices, or if it was the guitar imitating a voice. I thought at first it was a voice, and then it got to the end and I thought, maybe that's the guitar. If it's the guitar, I think that's really cool. There are other voices in the background. That one with the vibrato. I'm tempted to say it's guitar, but I could be wrong. And they're back into this.
I wish I had an angel for one moment of love. I wish I had your angel, you're where to marry under.
I'm not sure if it's his voice or it's the melodic line that is catching me here. I wish I had an angel for one moment of love. Sort of I think it's a combination of the melodic material, which is kind of just a 1-5-1-1-5-1 da 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 da. So it has this kind of open and energized feel. Whenever you have this sort of 1-5-1-5-1-5, it's this powerful tonic dominant 1-chord 5-chord feel. And he's kind of sketching that out with his voice, almost like a bass part in a 4-part harmony piece of vocal music, where the basses are tending towards just the bottom end, and you have a lot of that. So instead, we're hearing that as the melody, and it gives a sort of a sort of rugged vigor to it. Da dum da 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 da. And that ruggedness, I think, is what matches so well his voice. So I think it's a combination of him singing and the melodic material and the way the two of them those two elements work together to make it into this kind of thing that I feel like it's going to stick in my ears all day. I really do. Da 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 da. You know, it's that sort of catchy little bit. Interesting. Okay, so I do like the way his voice works with that melody. But back to Tarja. I was very careful to set aside any expectations before sitting down to listen to this piece of music today, because I remember how it really threw me off last time. And it's important for me now to make very clear. I've saved my discussion about her voice until the end, and we might actually go back and listen to a couple little clips as I talk about it. But I want to make it very clear that the things that many of you said about it being an incredible operatic voice, trained opera, classical singing. Okay, I understand if that sounds impressive. I understand. This is not an opera voice. Now, I didn't come to it wanting to hear an opera voice. I didn't come to it expecting even to hear an opera voice, because I remember last time some of you said, oh, the Mozart of rock music. Yeah, that was a bit of a letdown for me. That doesn't mean that it's not a great voice and not an interesting voice and not one that is exciting in its own way, but it is not an opera voice. I'm just going to say that here and let it rest, because I want to be clear about that. And it's not going to give, I was careful not to come with the idea that I would hear an opera voice, because I didn't want to be disappointed. It's a good thing, because let's go back. And I want to actually start at the very beginning, where we hear her most powerfully. And let's explore this opening a bit.
I wish I had an angel for one moment of love. I wish I had your angel tonight.
Okay, before I get to her voice again, one more thing. This is reminding me right at the beginning. Why do I sometimes feel like I hear a little hint of Celtic influence here? And in this case, it's not so much because of the melody. I pointed out some of the clues of that, but in the pronunciation. In the pronunciation, especially of the word I. It reminds me of the way I hear someone speak, the sort of Scottish accent, the way they say I, which I cannot imitate. I've tried many times in my life because I think it's kind of fun to try out different accents. I've never been able to imitate that Scottish way of pronouncing I. But I hear it, and I hear it here as she's singing.
I wish I had an angel for one moment of love. I wish I had your angel tonight.
And it's the way that pronunciation of I is placed with the syncopation of that phrase, which fits so nicely the way, again, when I hear someone speaking with a Scottish accent, it is somehow the sort of same rhythmic flow to the speech. And that, I think, is one of the big reasons I find myself sometimes thinking, oh, it's almost going in a Celtic direction, although the music isn't really doing that. So I wanted to point that out because, and maybe make a little more clear, why does it sometimes send me that way? That is, I think, one of the big reasons why. Her voice is interesting because it's, as I said earlier, it's clean, it's precise. There's a gentleness to it. There's also a sort of steely strength to it, which probably is why it works so well in this rather progressive metallic sound. This is kind of a metallic sounding song, isn't it? Maybe not in a really heavy way, but it does have those influences. And I think that her voice fits that aesthetic incredibly well.
Wish I had an angel for one moment of love. I wish I had
steely,
your
isn't it?
angel tonight.
Somehow I want to say her voice is a steel, is steel strings, meaning, okay, if I wish I had, I don't have. If I were to play an old Irish harp with steel strings, you would hear a whole different sound than what you have with the gut strings of this harp. It's the same idea if you are playing probably, well, you have the steel string guitar versus the nylon strung or gut strung classical instruments. The steel strings have a more metallic quality, and I feel like there is this metallic quality within her voice, which gives it, even though it's gentle, it's clean, it's precise, it has all these soprano qualities, there is a steeliness, a strength to it that is I don't know, I want to say in a way it's like how we sometimes talk about the incredible strength of a spider web, the which is stronger than steel. It's very delicate, but there's a strength. So also with her voice, there's a delicacy, and then there's this deep power in it, even though it's not a deep voice. At least I haven't heard her using it as a deep voice. And that comes out really clearly to me in this opening chorus.
I wish I had an angel for one moment of love. I wish I had your angel tonight.
And then, of course, as the piece progressed, and I heard more of her voice, and I said at one point that this guy singing, and I don't know his name, it was pulling me more towards him and his melody, but I think I figured out why. But her voice also, it was interesting because it wasn't one that was louder or incredibly powerful volume-wise in the context of the piece. There were times when I almost felt like it was barely holding its own against the onslaught, the storm of instrumental sound around it, and yet it held. It did hold its fine thread, and that gives it a sort of tension. This idea of one small line holding its own against the whole storm of music around it, which works really well with this set of lyrics, of course, which are all about this conflict and this desire, which is quite overwhelming. I wish I had an angel for one moment of love. I wish I had your angel, your Virgin Mary undone. I'm in love with my lust, burning angel wings to dust. I wish I had your angel tonight. Greatest thrill, not to kill, but to have the prize of the night. And so it's kind of it's a song about an attraction to darkness and to lust, which seems to be pulling us, and I think that is very well portrayed in this song. Not at all in fact, compared to the first Nightwish song I heard 3 years ago, and approximately 800 songs ago, this is a much more rock-sounding piece of music than that one. That one was more, as I said, movie score, kind of light classical. This is much more rocky rock, and I think it's a good choice because the content of the lyrics really fits well in that rugged, stormy environment. So this is the first Nightwish song of the weekend, and Wish I Had an Angel. Really an energetic, shall I say, darkly captivating piece of music, isn't it? And enjoyable for me to listen to and be able to explore and evaluate without a whole bunch of expectational baggage hanging on my back. Tomorrow I will be listening to another Nightwish piece in this Nightwish weekend with the other singer, Floor Jansen. And I'm not sure what song it is yet, but we'll find out. I'll see you then.